Here we go. And, oh, a little too soon. And here we go, and rolling intro. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, out to 1.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's Audio Production Town Hall. You can find us here every month, typically the fourth Monday of each class month, weighing in on all sorts of things of general interest to audio production nerds around the world. We will talk about mixing or sound for games or the business of dance music, new interesting products, new and interesting people, and we hope that you will stay tuned to FS1 to see what we're up to every month and plan on joining us. I'm Brian Smithers. I'm the Program Director of Audio Production, and this month we're going to be talking about some of the newest and latest, greatest features in the current release of Pro Tools. Joining us today is support specialist, one of the biggest brains at Avid and a longtime friend of the university, Mr. Gil Gowing. Welcome back, Gil.
Thank you. Glad to be here again.
So there was a release about 2 months ago, 2025-10.
2025.10, that's correct.
What are some of the latest, greatest things that were introduced in this version?
All right, well, it was our second release of the year, and we kind of divided up into probably 3 different big sections. One of those sections was kind of a new immersive audio kind of workflow into Pro Tools. We've been supporting Dolby Atmos for quite a while. In fact, with 2023.12, we introduced the Dolby Atmos renderer built into Pro Tools. But since then, we've been working towards kind of building a new infrastructure in Pro Tools to be able to support other immersive formats. And 2025.10 will be is kind of the first kind of foray into that, with the support for Sony 360 Reality audio immersive mixing support. So that's a big thing there. Also, if you're familiar with it or not, I'm not sure, but there's a kind of an add-on, not really an apps, but more of a kind of helper program that called SoundFlow, that basically allows you to build macros and be able to trigger things in Pro Tools and other apps as well. But it was really big for Pro Tools, and we've supported that for quite a while. But with 2025.10, one of the things that we've done is we've opened up our SDK to them, and they basically now have internal hooks, whereas before they were having to do all of their kind of work around with the Apple accessibility layer. And so that only made this available for Macintosh, no PC support. Now with how we're opening this up, now they've kind of got direct native support of Pro Tools directly in, and now we both have Mac and PC support. That's also opened up a whole new in-app tutorial section that we're kind of bringing to, it's kind of its first foray with 2025.10, which we'll look at here in a minute as well. And then there's some other additional features, some inner circle rewards. And as an added bonus, we're also going to talk a little bit, it's not a huge release, but later this week we're releasing 2025.12.
Oh.
And so we've got a kind of a new thing that we're going to be showing with that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute as well. So that kind of sets us up for kind of what we're going to go over today.
Awesome, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So, like I said, the first thing is Sony 360 Reality Audio. This is kind of Sony's interpretation of how to mix in the immersive world. What's different about Sony versus, say, something like Atmos is Atmos has 2 speaker planes. They have kind of an ear level plane, and then they have a ceiling plane. Sony actually adds a floor set of speakers as well. So you actually do get more of a 360-degree sphere. Obviously, with the Pro Tools mixer and our panner, we don't support but the kind of the air level and the height level. So this really required us to go in and kind of do a whole new infrastructure. And it's what's really cool about this is it kind of has opened us up, and we built this infrastructure to now where we'll be able to add other immersive formats. But it's real simple to be able to access this. So I'm going to switch over here to Pro Tools real quick. One of the new things that you're going to see here is you've got here in this top corner on the edit bar, you've got a new renderer tab that you can get in here and see kind of what's going on and kind of what you're working with at any given point. So right now it says it's on, the renderer is on. I'm actually working in Dolby Atmos right now. If I click on this little gear here, it'll quickly bring up the Atmos renderer window. This is the internal renderer that's built into Pro Tools. I hit play. We'll see some objects moving around. We see some things over here in the beds. So just this is how Atmos has worked pretty much for quite a while. Now, so what's new though now is you've got this second line here, which is telling us that we're using the Dolby Atmos internal renderer. Normally, to switch between the internal renderer and the external renderer, we had to either go into the renderer window or into the I/O setup to be able to switch back and forth between those two things.
Right.
Now, you can just click on this little reveal triangle, and it basically gives you a menu of things. And so if we look here now, you've now got the Sony 360 RA Wattmix renderer, which is the Sony renderer. Also, you're seeing the Audio Vivid renderer, which is what will be new coming this week in 2025.12. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But obviously, with the Dolby renderer, if we kind of open up one of my folders here and we open up one of these object tracks, you'll see that, you know, this is our typical Pro Tools panner for Atmos. It's got, you know, your kind of cube square that you can do from the floor level to the ceiling, height controls,
Right.
all your panning and stuff. Obviously, Sony does not work this way at all. So, but we've basically done behind the scenes being able to make this where we can switch to this separate renderer, and it basically takes all the information, all your automation that you're working in Atmos, basically will freeze that in time in the session, and then it will convert it over to the 360 RA format for you. So all I have to do is come over here and click, select, and it brings up this little window the first time you do this. It basically, all right, so what's your monitoring environment, so it knows how to bring it over into the Sony monitoring environment for you. I was doing this in 7.1.4, so that's what we were going to be working in. We hit OK, and right now it's going through and it's updating all of the automation and the panner information. And now, if we click on the renderer, now you see we've got the 360 RA render in place. Right now, since we're working with a stereo interface, it's basically only 2-channel stereo, but if we were back in a studio that had multiple channels out for your monitoring, you'd see this where it's the little speaker icon over here that if you click on the headphones, it basically will switch it back out, and now you're working in their headphone binaural world.
Right.
We can switch back and forth with that. Now, when it comes to the panner, you come over here and you click on the little fader icon on a track or in the mixer window. Instead of it bringing up our pan window, now it brings up an actual Wattmix panner, the 360 RA panner that's in a sphere. So you actually see the listener perspective, and then you see a top-down perspective over here that can be switched to a number of different views.
All right. Yep.
Now, if I come over here, let's open that renderer back up again and hit play. You'll see that, so 360 doesn't have what in the Dolby world is the bed, where it's the 7.1.2 kind of basic bus into the world, and then everything else is an object. In the 360 world, everything is an object.
Right.
Now, obviously, this is only available for Pro Tools Studio or Pro Tools Ultimate, because those are the only ones that support surround or immersive mixing.
Right.
If you're a current subscriber or you have a current support plan for Pro Tools, and you have access to 25.10, you'll get a kind of a light version of 360, which gives you access to 10 objects, so you kind of get a little bit of a taste.
Right.
If you want the full 128 360 objects, then you would need to purchase their package. The good thing is it's the same installer. So once you install this with your Pro Tools system, then you go and you just log into your account once you've purchased the upper package, and it will turn everything on for you without having to reinstall anything. So it's a real simple, easy way to be able to do things. So, you know, the big thing for Sony 360 is this is really big over in Japan, especially for the music market. Over there with the Sony Music label. They're trying to, you know, from their label's point of view, this is the how they want to deliver, and being able to do it natively now inside of Pro Tools versus having to use a plugin, which is what people have had to do before. It was a lot more difficult to try to kind of wrangle that back and forth before. It's definitely a lot easier now. Now the good thing is if you've done an Atmos mix and you switch over to 360 and you can make some stems or do whatever you want to, it's super easy to switch back. You just come over here and select your internal renderer again, and once again, like I said, it kind of froze everything that you were doing over on the Atmos side. So when you go back to this, it's basically the exact same mix that you left it. If you did do some changes, it will try to bring those back across, and anytime you're doing these things, I would always recommend doing a save as before you make the change and go back and forth. So that way you have a kind of a base session that you have that you can always go back to if things don't quite work when you're trying to go back and forth the way you think they should.
So in terms of I have so many questions.
Sure.
In terms of the design, it's sort of internally saving the Atmos version and the 360 version.
Sure.
And you
And
can,
all that panning metadata for either one of those is saved in the sessions separately. Once you switch to one and back, it knows that those two things are there, and it kind of is in their last state.
Yeah. Which I think is the first time that Pro Tools has actually saved two different states.
That's correct.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
But you're recommending that we should probably do a save as of each version.
It's just safe.
Just safe.
It's always safer that way. I always do save as I'm working on progressing anyway, just because, while we have the backup sessions and things like that that are kind of there for, just your basic safety's sake. It's just always good. Hard drive space is, it's next to nothing these days. These sessions, unless you're doing some really serious ARA stuff, is not good. They're not going to, even then, they're not going to be huge.
Yeah.
So it's always, back in the days when we kind of first started with this, when, you were dealing with a 40 megabyte hard drive that was $4,000 or $5,000. That was, that's like 40 floppy disks worth of stuff. And that was when it was all at a premium. These days, it's pretty cheap, and I would recommend trying to back up your stuff as much as you possibly could.
Absolutely. And as you bring up the autosave feature, which is great and can be a lifesaver, but I too believe in doing deliberate, specific save as points, because then you can actually organize your approach to it and always know where you were.
Absolutely.
Rather than just being something that Pro Tools does automatically for you. If you're actually doing it consciously and deliberately, it can be a lot more.
It's just another safety point.
Yep.
I don't think it's ever. You never have too many back, because at some point, Pro Tools is going to start writing over those, because you only have so many that you have in that folder anyway.
Yeah.
Depending on what the time. Like I said, that's good for like a little bit of a safety net, but you might want to go back to something that's 4 weeks old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you might not do a save, a manual save as, but once an hour or once a day or whatever, however you want to make that, you work that into your workflow. It's just, like you said, it's a good way and a good habit to get into, because at some point, if you don't, you're going to be in a point to where something happens and then you lose your work and then you got to start over. And I've been there, and most people have, and it's not a good feeling.
So one of the things that Sony brings compared to Atmos is those lower speakers.
That's correct.
They're down.
They're with floor level.
Okay. But one of the things that it doesn't bring over from Atmos is the near and far factor of it, right? Isn't it? Is it true that in Sony everything kind of sits on the sphere?
On a sphere.
Same distance.
And so, like I mean, the way the Atmos renderer looks, I mean, you look at it here, it's kind of a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can push things up and you can push it into corners, and you have so you can do something that's very much wide at the top and wide down at the bottom. Whereas when you're in Sony, you've got it's a sphere. It really is a sphere. So as you pull things up on the far outsides, it brings it in. So its top is narrower to get that, and so are the floor speakers. It's a more narrow kind of width down at the bottom as you're doing those things. So it's a totally different approach. I mean, if they'd all sounded the same, there wouldn't really need to be any different versions of this. So I mean, it's definitely a totally different thing, and your mixes are going to come out in a totally different way with it. And one of the things is when you bring things from Atmos into 360, I mean, it's just going to be at ear level and up. So unless you're just wanting to do some quick things just to bring it over into the format to see what it's going to sound like, you're going to have to do some work when it comes over there if you want to pull things down below ear level at that point down into those floor speakers. So there's definitely going to be some work. And then if you bring a 360 mix back into Atmos, it's obviously going to have to bring all that stuff up. And so you're probably going to have to do some level tweaking once it brings it back up to everything back up to ear level and gets rid of that floor information.
And the included version of the 360 interface and renderer gives you 10 objects. Mm-hmm. So is everything else restricted to stereo, or how does that work? Or do you just every track has to be assigned to one of those?
One of those
objects?
10, yeah.
Okay.
If you want everything to be more independent, especially if you're going to be moving things around or whatever, then you're going to need to upgrade to the full version.
Right. So everything in your mix is in those 10 objects. Is just limiting the amount of independence that you have within those 10.
Correct. And if once again, if you've got a 714 speaker set up, I mean, you basically with 10 objects, you can only go to 10 speakers instead of all 14.
Right.
So.
Gotcha. That's very cool. Another thing that intrigues me about this is that I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the Sony renderer interface. Walkmix, okay. Mm-hmm. So people have asked me for years now, so is Avid going to integrate, other versions of immersive other than Atmos? And my answer has always been, in order to do that, they'd have to fundamentally rethink their current immersive panner structure. Because right now it's set up specifically for an approach that corresponds directly to Atmos. And this Walkmix actually is the answer to that question.
It's part one to answer the question, and we'll kind of leave it there. I mean, obviously with Walkmix, because it's a spherical panning, and they had a plug-in already, it was easy for us to kind of take that information and bring it over, and how we kind of manage that and how we swap out our panner for their panner
Right.
in this world. Now, as I said earlier, release we've got coming out later this week, 2025.12. The big thing with it is the audio vivid renderer, and I'll switch over to that real quick. And what this is it's basically for the Chinese market. The Chinese film and television world, they want to have, this is basically kind of their open source immersive platform they have over there. And obviously big market, a lot of Pro Tools over there, so we're working with them and we'll be bringing this out this week. The cool thing about this is that it's kind of like Dolby. It's with only for studio, only for Ultimate, but you will get the full version of this.
Cool.
And it works very similarly to Atmos, where there's beds and objects. 128 channels worth. In fact, if you're looking, we're looking here at the Audio Vivid renderer. I mean, you see a lot of similarities with what the Dolby renderer looks like. I mean, you kind of got the same kind of theater format. If I hit play, you'll see the same kind of little sphere balls running around. One cool thing about their renderer, though, is you actually see movement, at least in a 2D world, over here, whereas in the Dolby renderer, it just is kind of a signal present on that channel. And this gives you a little more information, so you can kind of see what movement is kind of happening on a channel by channel basis. So it's got built-in loudness metering into it, which we don't necessarily quite have right now with the internal Dolby renderer. They have it in the external renderer,
Right.
and hopefully we'll get it in the internal renderer at some point once Dolby opened up that part to their library source code that we can get in there and be able to add that in.
Right.
But obviously with the Audio Vivid, definitely coming over. Oh, and we closed the renderer window. We can look at this. Uses so like when you get into the objects, it uses kind of their panning protocol, but it's mostly based on what we do, because it's the same, kind of ear level speakers, top level speakers. There's no floor speakers with this.
Gotcha.
But it's like I said, China's a big market for us, and I think this will be a really big thing over there as they expand and start mixing more in immersive for their TV and film production over there. This is kind of what's been dictated that they need, and we'll be one of the only ones that are kind of offering this natively.
Nice.
In a DAW. So.
And does that have built-in binaural rendering?
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that's a lot of advancements in a pretty short period of time.
Well, once again, I think we worked a long time to build the infrastructure. 360 was that first one, and now you're going to start seeing more and more of these start to come about. In fact, I mean, we talked about this. We don't have a specific date yet, but we talked about this at the IBC show over in Amsterdam in September, that we were doing 360, and then we're doing UWA Audio Vivid, and then next year at some point we'll also do the Fraunhofer immersive platform, which is a big thing for the European broadcast space. So be looking for that at some point next year at sometime.
Very cool.
Now, so that's kind of our kind of the immersive world, what we've been doing lately with that. So with 25.10, the next big thing we added was direct support for SoundFlow. And so like I said, I think a little bit earlier, SoundFlow has been around for a while. Obviously, it's big for Pro Tools, but it actually works for a number of different applications out there. Has its own kind of app store, and you can go in, people can make a bunch of different workflow macros and things, and sell them as packages up there for a number of different things, not just Pro Tools, but Cubase, Ableton. I mean, there's tons of things up there. And like I said earlier, the big thing with SoundFlow and Pro Tools up until this 25.10 release was that everything was based around Apple's accessibility layer. So that's how we got in, and they were able to kind of be able to create their macros, was based on all the great accessibility work that Apple's done for for that community.
Yeah.
But it's always been limited. So one of the things that we've done for the last few years is we've kind of have an SDK program internally that each Pro Tools release, we have more and more hooks into the program through our SDK.
Can we pause for just a moment for some of our newer listeners?
Yep.
SDK is Software Developer Kit.
That's correct.
Which allows, as you just expressed it, hooks for external products or ancillary products to actually get into the code and interact at a close level with your software.
Correct. It definitely is, there's, obviously key commands and other different layers, part of the OS and stuff, you can kind of get in from the outside. But with the SDK, it really lets you, it's native support for the most part, to be able to get in without actually being an avid programmer at that point, actually deep in the Pro Tools code. But the really cool thing about this is, with this partnership, is we've now kind of added SoundFlow directly as a part into Pro Tools, that you can access it right from there. Before, it was always this thing that kind of sat on the outside that you could control it, but you always had to go somewhere else to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So with Pro Tools now, so when I was back here in, I guess it was in September, right? Or August.
August, yeah.
August. We talked about 25.6 and some of the new things we had done in the clip bin, which at that point, 25.6, we had added Splice over there as a tab. Well, now we've got 2 more tabs over here added in addition to Splice. And one of those is the SoundFlow tab. And of course, I am offline. I should have checked this beforehand. I need to get on my internet. Should just log in. There we go.
Okay, good.
Oh, nope.
No. Do you need this?
I've got it on my phone.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'll just stay over here. Excuse us for not being prepared. Hopefully my eyesight saw that right. Yeah, looks like we're good.
Awesome.
All right, we can close that window. We should be online. And I'm going to sign in with my Avid account, hopefully. Here we go. And so once you get signed in and it gets all in sync, come on, some point today. I should have been more prepared. Sorry about this.
That's okay.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this session, and we're going to reopen it real quick. Hopefully that'll trigger things.
So people have been using various keyboard macro programs in conjunction with Pro Tools for a long time, but SoundFlow seems to have carved out a space of its own.
Yes.
And now with the integration through the SDK, they hold a particular place of prominence going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the creator of SoundFlow, I mean, there's like I said, you said there was other kind of macro programs out there, Keyboard Maestro and things like that. But SoundFlow is always, they've taken it deeper and being able to really get in and do some really good custom work where it's not just about a quick editing thing, but it really like builds upon doing a number of different things very sequentially. While this is trying to think and load,
and on top of that, they've kind of created a sort of secondary marketplace where people can actually create specific workflows to work within SoundFlow and actually make them available.
That's correct. So there is, they like I said, they have kind of their own app store with a marketplace where you can go, and there's some free things that people have done to kind of put up there to be helpers in the community. But then there's some things that people have worked really long and hard on that they're going to charge money for. One of the big ones is Andrew Shep's Bounce Factory. If you're in the music world, you probably know who Andrew Sheps is. He's a big producer, engineer, mixer.
And if you don't, look him up.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an amazing guy, great human being, and really, really smart.
Yeah.
But he's done this Bounce Factory SoundFlow kind of app product that basically allows you to go in, set up some parameters within your session to build out and create any number of stems that you want from a mix, whether that's instrumentals, acapellas, vocal up, vocal down, whatever you want. I mean, you can just, the sky's the limit. You can go in and tell it how wide you want them, stereo, Atmos, this, that, and the other, and basically hit go and walk away. Go get lunch, and when you come back, it's all done for you. So I mean, it's a lot of people, you probably you're just making a stereo bounce or maybe a couple, 2, 3 bounces, and that's not that big of a deal. But when you're delivering to labels, and labels want a million things. They want individual instrument stems. They want all these different things now, and that takes time to be able to do all that. And he's built this SoundFlow app set that basically allows you to automate all that for you. So that's a really cool thing. It's not, I'm not going to say it's cheap, but if that's what you do every day for a living is mix, and you need to deliver this stuff, and you want to have some personal time back, or not have to hire 2 or 3 assistants to do it for you, then it's a really, really great thing to have and be able to do. There we go. So anyway, so now what we're looking at here is the SoundFlow tab over here off to the side. In fact, if you look down here, so just kind of let me go, I'll just go through this right now. So with your Pro Tools subscription or your current support plan, you'll get to be able to sign in with just your Avid account, and you'll get kind of a free SoundFlow account. What that gets you is it gets you this little palette of macros that are pre-built, not editable, but they're pre-built, and there's about, within this layer you can go down, there's about 1,600 of them, which is we used to have this kind of SoundFlow Pro Tools edition that kind of had some of this in it, but obviously not to this extent, and it was not anywhere near as easy to access. And so now it's just kind of all built in. In fact, if you just sign in with your Avid account, it basically builds a SoundFlow account in the background for you. You don't even have to worry about any of that stuff. Now, if you want to really get in and use SoundFlow to its bigger extent, which is to build your own macros or other things like that, then you're going to have to go with a pro account and pay for that. I don't know what it is. In fact, he might have even lowered it recently. But if you just go to soundflow.com, it'll tell you how to sign up for one of those. And then instead of signing in with your Avid account, you would just sign in with your SoundFlow account, and then you would get all those extra added benefits and things.
Right. So
if you look here, there's a bunch of, and this is kind of just the start of it. In fact, it's got a quick little thing we can click on, and it can take you and tell you all about the Shep's Bounce Factory. Or if you want to see how you can integrate a hardware Stream Deck, which would require a paid account. All of these things are kind of like little easy things that you can go in, click, and it'll take you over into the world. In fact, there's even some AI built into this. So like you can ask it questions if you have a full-blown account, and you can, like you would like ChatGPT, where you could say, build me a set of tracks based on a typical 5-piece drum kit with microphones, overheads, room mics, color code them such a way, with a drum or a snare reverb on the snare, and then an overall reverb on the rest of the kit. And it will go through and it will build all that stuff for you. So, there's some really good things about being in the SoundFlow world when it comes to like, I personally think it's good to learn how to do this stuff yourself.
Right.
I mean, it's that way you know exactly what's going on and why those things are in place. But when you're, if you work in a studio and you're having to like revolve in and out bands all the time, I mean, you can do this with track presets, you can do it with templates, whatever. But if somebody comes in and they throw you a curveball, it's like they come in with a set of instruments that, oh, well, I've never set this up before, and now you're trying to get through it. You could easily use this AI assistant to build your session for you, and then you can kind of tweak it as you go along. But it does it really, really fast, and you can do some pretty complex things with it. So it's actually a really, really cool thing that you can. It's kind of an added benefit to having the SoundFlow stuff. And like I said, so you've got this kind of palette of macros up here. So if I wanted to go into just something simple like track colors, I could say, all right, I'm going to open this backbeat track folder, select those items, go into colors. I'm going to do clip colors, and then boom, I just change those clips.
Oh.
So it's, yeah, you can go over here and you can open up the clip color window, which in 2510 is kind of a different thing now. In fact, I'll show that real quick. So when we kind of took colors and went to the dark mode, we kind of expanded the whole color palette window where you could go in and do different contrasts and saturation settings and all these different type of things. And for a lot of people that just wanted to change track color, that was a lot. Right. So in 25.10, we've kind of moved some things around, whereas if you come over here and open up the color palette, it's the old color palette again.
Right.
But if you want to get in and actually change the UI settings, that's now under UI customization here under the window menu, which gives you all of the presets and the theme settings, and then we've kind of made it more of a modern looking window instead of it, so you can have reveal triangles and keep things collapsed that you don't need to see all the time. So it's just an easier, I think, way to kind of keep those things, because that you'll probably want to go through and tweak a little bit when you first start using something, and then you're going to want to leave it alone.
Yeah.
But color palette, I mean, obviously you can do some color palette stuff here from SoundFlow, but if you want to get to the regular color palette, it just makes it a lot simpler to get in there and be able to do that color palette. But this is a number of different things, like your automation type workflows, file and navigation, getting in and being able to open up inserts, deal with markers, editing commands. There's, it's not just always single commands either. It's obviously, these can be macros where it's a number of different things that you're doing with one click. And these are kind of the things that they've kind of built up that a lot of, beginner, intermediate users will get a lot of use out of this.
Right.
Now, obviously, it's a lot of point and click, but one thing how I use it at home is I have a touch screen. So I just bring this up and I can just use a touch screen, so I don't have to use a hardware thing like an actual Stream Deck to be able to do it. And I've heard rumors that Apple, hopefully, knock on wood, is going to release MacBook Pros with touchscreens next year. So that
would be cool.
Might be a really cool little addition there. All right, so that's kind of SoundFlow. Now, one of the things that we were able to leverage off of SoundFlow, especially for new users that either have never used a DAW before, or they're coming over from a different program and they just don't know maybe how to navigate through and get to different things. So we've got this Learn tab as well. So basically, this first kind of iteration, we've got a few different kind of basic, how do you record audio, or how do you edit audio, or how do you work with MIDI in Pro Tools, or welcome to Pro Tools. This is kind of a tour. So what's really cool about this is before we've had some things like this in our dashboard where it would take you to videos off on YouTube, out of Pro Tools. You'd have to go watch, then you'd come back. With this, it's actually interactive. So basically it brings up this little welcome to recording in Pro Tools. So I hit next, and the first thing it's going to do is we need to load a session for this tutorial. You want to save your existing session. I don't. So basically it's going to close that down, and it's going to open up this tutorial session for us to be able to have some tracks and be able to walk through some things. So first thing it says, create a new track. On the top menu, go to track, new. So we'll do that. Now,
Nice.
it basically brings up this overlay that is basically telling you what do you need to do. You need to come over here, and it's all live. I mean, this is actually the Pro Tools session. This isn't some PDF that it kind of walks you through with some graphics. This is actually Pro Tools. So, all right, well, so here's all the different, the track width. So we're going to create, it says mono. And then the next thing, we want to click on create, and then it creates a track, and it tells you we've created this track down here. So now we double click the track name, and we can name this vocal. Hit OK, and now we can come over here and we can, select our input. We can, once you've done that, you can add a click track to this. I mean, it's super intuitive how it steps you through. I'm going to just kind of get out of this right now, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
So, and we've done 4 of these for this 25.10 release, and we'll be doing a lot more things. And also, one of the things we want to do is when we come out with a new version of Pro Tools, we want to do one of these things where it will actually take you through kind of the main features of that release in an interactive way. Instead of it being a PDF or a video, you actually it will take you through in the app itself and show you what those things are. And all of that is built off of SoundFlow.
Wow, that's fabulous. What a great way to be able to actually do the tutorial right there live in the software with annotations like that.
That's right. I mean, and to be honest with you, even people that have been using Pro Tools a while, I mean, I'd say walk through it, because, I mean, there's a million different ways to do things in Pro Tools, and people kind of get pigeonholed into a certain way they want to work. That's one of the things I love about my job is I get to go out and talk to people and show them things, and then they show me stuff, and I'm like, okay, I've been using Pro Tools since 1991 when it came out as Pro Deck Pro Edit, and I didn't know you could do that. So it's always good to kind of look at things because you'll look at it from a different perspective and maybe learn a new little tool tip that might help you with what you're doing.
That's fabulous. So we only have a couple of minutes left. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them in the remaining couple of minutes.
While we're going along real quick with speech to text with 2510, one of the big things, especially for music, was you had if it, like you trying to translate a vocal over and you had some long notes that had some pitch up and downs, it might not get the word right. And you were just kind of stuck with what it was. Well, with this now you can actually clear, edit, or join phrases and words. So you can go back and manually change the transcription and be able to make sure it's correct. So if you're wanting to extract that out as like a lyric sheet or something at some point, or be able to follow along and see what the actual lyrics are on the timeline, this is a great way. Or be able to search for alternate takes. You'll be able to easily go through, edit those things, and do this stuff. And then another big thing is that we added the ability to go in and have what we call offline transcription. Instead of having to open up something and go through and transcribe it while the session's open, you can go through the workspace, like choose a folder and just have it batch transcribe a bunch of audio in the background, and you can continue doing whatever you need to do. Once again, anything that's transcribed with this will follow the audio file. So the session doesn't have to be open. When you open that and once it's been transcribed, it will see that as part of the database, and then we'll just open it up as it needs to once you've opened it up, or move it somewhere else.
That's cool, the ability to do that in the background. I like that.
We got any questions come in yet?
No
No
questions. I guess we've just blown everybody's minds.
A couple other little things. We've improved how our ARA menus work, easily being able to move things around and hide show things. It basically now will go and kind of prepare ARA when you first open up Pro Tools, so it doesn't have to do those things when you go through and assign something in ARA process. We've actually split up ARA and the elastic audio menus. So before there was just one big long menu. Now you've got two separate menus. When you click in that area, you can see ARA stuff, or you can see elastic audio stuff.
Gotcha.
So it, and then another big one, we did a dark theme, the dark UI a while back, but there were certain OS windows like import audio, which people still use for some reason, but it was still, if you were in dark, it was still classic. We've gone through and made sure that all windows like that all adhere to the correct OS theme. And then just some little MIDI operations window improvements, the UI improvements, splitting that out from the color window as well. And then just some other inner circle things, a couple, 3 plug-in, MIDI plug-in or audio plugins here that you get with your Pro Tools, your support plan or your subscription with 25.10. Cool thing about Inner Circle is that even if you go off your plan, these are perpetual, so that you won't ever lose access to them, even if you stop paying for Pro Tools.
That's great.
And then some new contact player with some Leap expansions that we've done based on some of our sound sets that we had for some of our downloadable sample content from Avid Link. So that's kind of where we are right now with the state of Pro Tools.
That's a lot. It seems as though while there have always been kind of partnerships and bundled products and so forth in the past, it seems as though Avid has gone to a whole new level in terms of these partnerships and integrations with third-party products.
Well, especially with like ARA and some of these rendering things, we can't just reinvent the wheel for every single thing that needs to happen out there. You know, we have a lot of engineering that has to go into actually maintaining and keeping Pro Tools on an innovative kind of track. And then when you start wanting to add in all these other things, for us, it just makes sense. And I know that we kind of get criticized sometimes for it, but I personally think it makes sense to partner with some of the best in the business and being able to bring those tools in a way that keeps it very Pro Tools-like, but then you are getting the best of the best algorithm instead of, for somebody, you know, we could hire somebody and we could do something kind of middle of the road, but this gives you the best of the best tools in our environment.
That's very cool. Well, Gil, thank you so much for joining us again, talking us through this. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us, and we always learn a lot. So we thank you all for joining us today for this month's Audio Production Town Hall. I hope your December month is wrapping up nicely and you're ready for some rest and or excitement over the winter break. We want to thank the live event production students in the Audiovisual Technologies class for doing such a bang-up job helping us produce this as they do every month. And thanks again to their course director, John Cost. It's been a pleasure working with you all. And we hope you'll look forward to seeing us back here fourth Monday of every month in the new year. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.